special pre-match protocol will be in place as part of FIFA's commitment to promoting diversity and eradicating all forms of discrimination from football. The two teams will come together for a joint photo opportunity before kickoff. LED boards displaying living diversity will also be shown throughout the match. In addition, video messages from the captains of the 8 participating teams will be shown inside the stadium, encouraging fans to unite against all forms of discrimination and to celebrate inclusion irrespective of ethnic origin, gender, sexual orientation, disability, religion, or any other reason. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the press conference with Team USA. Here we have head coach Joe Ellis and also forward Megan Rapinoe. Before we get started, you already know about our translation system, so wait for the microphone before asking your question. Also, let us know what is the language you'll be speaking, as we have remote interpretation and the translators are not here in this room. If you're coming from a different venue, we have a different token that's on the back of the seat in front of you. And photographers, you have 5 minutes. Megan, would you start with a few words?
Yeah, I'll just address it head on, and then we can get to the soccer questions. Obviously, a lot of news recently. I stand by the comments that I made about not wanting to go to the White House, with the exception of the expletive. My mom will be very upset about that. But I think obviously entering with a lot of passion, considering how much time and effort and pride we take in the platform that we have, and using it for good and for leaving the game in a better place and hopefully the world in a better place. I don't think that I would want to go, and I would encourage my teammates to think hard about lending that platform or having that co-opted by an administration that doesn't feel the same way and doesn't fight for the same things that we fight for. So I'll just leave it at that, and I'm not interested in answering any of those questions. We can get to the real reason we're here, which is a huge game.
Okay, first question here, please.
Question in English, Steph Young with SB Nation. So we're going to start off with, a meta question. Given that this is a question for Megan, by the way. Given that our backgrounds and our identities can inform how we view events, how we put things into context, particularly at huge events like the World Cup, when you look out at this press room, at people who are going to be taking your words and be telling your stories, do you hope you start to see more faces of women, particularly women of color?
Yeah, of course. As much as we love all your men's faces, the more women, the better, I would say. Of course, we want to get more women asking the questions to tell the stories from a different perspective, but also just giving people more opportunities. I think overall will help tell a more complete story of the women's game and of women's sports in general. And for us female athletes, I think it tells a more complete story when we have a diverse group of people telling that story for us.
Over there, please, in the middle, right here.
Question in English, Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Megan, it's been 3 years since the U.S. has beaten France, and it's been a couple games since then. There were 2 losses and a tie. What do you think has changed about France, if anything? Does those 3 games, since they were all friendlies, matter? And in particular, in terms of France changing, when Amandine Henry was over in the NWSL, do you think that added a little something to her game that may have made an impact?
I mean, I think everything matters, obviously. The whole journey matters. And, from where we were 4 years ago and from where France was 4 years ago, I think both of us are much stronger teams. I think just the women's game in general has grown tremendously. And I guess the task for each team is to try to be the team that is growing as fast as the game is and keeping up on that, and even being the one that's pushing the game forward. So I think France has done a really good job of that. Obviously, they have a very competitive league at home, and are playing in some of the biggest games in their club season that they can. In terms of Amandine, obviously, I think it speaks a lot to her mentality and her quality as a player, and just a kind of different mentality, I guess, to be able to, even just want or have that motivation to leave a club like Lyon. It's obviously a great club, incredible level that they play at. But, for the French players to have, one of the best clubs in the world right in their backyard, it's hard to leave that. So I think it speaks to her desire as a player to continue to grow and get better. And I think it's made her a more complete player.
Right here, please.
Question in English. Jerry Longman from the New York Times. Megan, in 2015, you talked a lot about how when you were young that Brian pushed you and Rachel hard all the time, making you stand up for yourself as a person and soccer. And I'm guessing he also influenced your belief that we need to protect the most vulnerable people in society. Is that fair to say that he's had a major influence on you both as a soccer player and on your social conscience?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I'm sure when we were younger, he was probably beating up on us, which makes us stand up, and maybe we could go 2v1 against him. But certainly from a social perspective, just seeing the course of his life and how that played out, really he's just a drug addict, and all of his offenses on the outside were wrapped around that. He probably just needed, more treatment or kind of a rehabilitation facility rather than being put in maximum security prisons for his drug offenses. And then obviously on the inside, he made different choices. But I think seeing how he was swept up in that and just, it's not like he's a bad person. And I think it just gave me a broader perspective on, I guess, just the criminal justice system in general and what kind of people are in there. They're just normal people. They're your brothers and, your friends and your family. And how can we do better? I think his greatest crime was being a drug addict, and, it doesn't help the addiction for him to be in prison. I don't think that deterred him at all from using drugs, actually. He probably just met more people that he could get drugs from. So I think in a large way, especially as I have gotten older and started to understand it a lot better, that shaped, my view on that in particular. But I think obviously that has a lot of ramifications outside of just drug abuse.
We're now closing the room for photographers. You're welcome to stay if you want, just no more photos, please. Right here.
In English, Grant Wall, Sports Illustrated, Fox Sports. Megan, if I were to ask, when you're protesting, what are you protesting? Would you answer that?
Like just in general?
Or specifically?
I guess that would be a more specific question.
What are the things when, you've answered this question before publicly, but you suddenly have, I think, an even bigger global audience and probably even a bigger domestic audience who see maybe some of the gestures that you've made but aren't fully aware of what are the things that you're protesting.
I think I would prefer to just keep it on the game for this, and then after the tournament. I think I have talked about it a lot and said a lot about it, so I think if people want to go in and read about it, they can, but I prefer to keep it about the game for now.
I would follow up then by asking...
We'll give you a second question.
The other night, when you're asked about this matchup, USA-France, the word exuberance was what I would use to describe your reply. Based on what's happened in the last few days, do you still feel exuberance for this game?
Oh, definitely. I think it's only built, I think. Just hearing, I think it's sold out already, and, the secondhand market for the tickets are wild, and, just getting closer to the game as well, starting to break them down. I'm sure they're feeling the same thing. Looking at this match, what it means not only for the tournament, it's a huge game and a chance to, get into the medal rounds, but, a chance to play the host nation in a World Cup. This is, for me, it's like, these are why you play all these friendlies 1,000 times and, are training on your own for hours and hours and grind through the rest of it so you can get to these moments. I think it's going to be a fantastic match. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a great stage for both teams who have had a lot of pressure and a lot of eyes on them to really just go out and perform and enjoy themselves.
Hello. First question in French, if possible, please. Asdine Ahmed Chaouch pour l'émission Quotidien. Savez-vous que depuis que vous êtes opposé à Donald Trump, vous êtes devenu très populaire en France? Est-ce que c'est un effet plutôt positif auquel vous ne vous y attendez pas? Et dans le prolongement, n'avez-vous pas peur que cette histoire avec Donald Trump ne déstabilise votre vestiaire et votre équipe? Merci.
Donald Trump story will kind of overshadow everything that's going on in the dressing room and perhaps destabilize the team?
I think I was already popular in France before this, right? I mean, come on. Played here. You know, they try not to like me, but I think they do. No, I'm not worried about destabilizing the dressing room. I think we have an incredibly strong dressing room. You know, we're very open with each other. Obviously, everyone knows who I am. But it's, you know, I'm not, I didn't make the comments at a press conference here. They were made months ago and just kind of resurfacing. So I think if anything, you know, it just fires everybody up a little bit more.
Right here, please. The gentleman in green. In green, yeah.
English, Doug McIntyre, Yahoo Sports. Jill, Megan sort of touched on this, but I'll ask you.
Megan, take this one.
You've talked so much about, and your players have talked so much about being in a bubble and not letting things permeate. Clearly, what happened yesterday did. We've seen some players respond on social media. How does this not become a distraction? How does this not impact your preparations for such a massive game tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I think the personality of our players, that's, I say it's the norm, but it's kind of part of, you know, part of the makeup of the players. They're elite people that, you know, live on a stage and are always, you know, probably under scrutiny. But I think this team has a remarkable focus. I don't, you know, I think we all support Megan. She knows that. We know we have each other's backs in there. And I think for our, you know, for our players, there's only one purpose, one mission that we're here. Comments, media, whatever. It's always been something that, you know, I think we can block out pretty easily. You know, I'm not around them all the time, so I don't know what they're kind of posting or saying. But, you know, at the end of the day, on the training ground, in the meeting rooms, focus has been phenomenal. And I think, you know, we're just genuinely excited.
Right here, please.
In English for Jill, you've talked so much about the role that Alyssa Nair plays in your build-up. For France, they seem to really lean on Bouhaddi and just she'll hold the ball for a long time, wait for her teammates to get upfield and play long. Is that an area of worry for you? Is there any way to kind of speed her up? Is that something that you've talked about with the team?
I mean, you know, she's a very good goalkeeper, and she's obviously a big part of their team and a big part of the influence of their attack. Yeah, I mean, I think at times it's probably, you know, to allow players, I mean, there's always purpose behind what people do, and to allow players to get upfield, to be in a position to win the ball, I think that's, you know, part of the strategy. But, you know, I think our players are just, you know, just really ready to just win the freaking first and second balls and then really get after it. You know, I think it's, if the ball's in the air, we're going to go for it. And, you know, I think Bouhaddi has great distribution, but I think we also will put ourselves in positions to win those balls.
Right here. The lady right there in green.
Question in English, Nancy Armour, USA Today. Doug actually took my initial question, but Megan touched on the significance of this game as the players, but for you as a coach and seeing where the growth of the game has gone and where it's going, how important is this, not just in the U.S., but globally?
Yeah, I mean, it's the World Cup, so it's important, you know. I mean, you kind of push everything aside. Like Megan said, you kind of push through things to get to this point. This is where you want to be. So I think it's, you know, it's a big game. It's a global game. I've talked a lot over the past couple of weeks just where the game is. And I think this is a magnificent showcase piece for our sport. I've said it's the most popular sport in the world now, I believe, for women. I think this game makes it bigger. You know, I think the attention, the fanfare around it and behind it just draws more attention to it. And if we can, you know, garner more support, more sponsors, more fans, more little girls going out willing to kick a soccer ball from watching this tomorrow night, that's fantastic. That's a great fallout.
Right here, please.
Bonjour à toutes les deux. Une question en anglais. I try to make in English. Do you think you have more or less pressure than other nations in this World Cup?
I think, you know, what people tend to not realize is I think the U.S. team lives in pressure. You know, when you're young and you come into this program, it's there's always a target on your back. So it's almost a place where we live regularly. I think, yeah, this is a big game, and the players know that. But I also think it's that expectation of being ready for this moment. We talk a lot about it. They are wired for this. They're built for this. You don't come into the U.S. program and hide in the shadows. You come in and you're in the spotlight right away. So I think some teams will visit pressure, but I think we live there a lot, and I think that's part of the pride and the history of this program that's brought us to this point. So I think the players are well vetted in that. Sure, are there going to be some nerves? Of course, it's a big game. There's a lot at stake, but I think that they are wired to handle it.
Right there, please, in the back.
Buenas tardes, Milena Gimón para Directive Sports Sudamérica. Primero, Megan, I'm going to ask you in Spanish because it's easier for me. Megan, son la única selección no europea en esta instancia.
See, excuse me, we don't have translation into Spanish today, only English and French.
Oh, I'll try in English.
Yes, please.
I'll do my best. We are the only, you are the only not European national team on this stage. What do you think is missing on the rest of the continent? And Jill, if the team is going to look like the match against Sweden or more like a Chilean game?
Okay.
I don't know if there's anything missing. I mean, I think a lot of the games were obviously very close. I mean, look back at the Japan game, maybe like 2 inches were missing for them on a number of occasions. I think obviously the European sides, have done very well and are getting stronger and stronger in this tournament. I don't know if that sense, kind of signals a global shift or a continental shift in the quality of soccer. Maybe just the way it shook out this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think France have a certain style of play, and I think actually, playing Sweden is, was a good pre-test for that in terms of, balls in behind and balls wide and a direct kind of style at times. So it's going to be a very physical battle. So again, I think it's, playing a Sweden that you kind of have to come battle tested to that game. So I think it's going to be, just a great game. I think both teams, have a lot in their arsenal. And I think both teams will try and exploit that as much as they possibly can.
Right here, please.
Bonjour, une question en français pour toutes les deux.
Hi, this is a question.
Vous allez jouer contre la France, le pays hôte de cette compétition, mais en même temps vous êtes les numéros 1 mondial et les plus titrés au monde. Qui sont selon vous les favorites et est-ce que vous pouvez me citer des noms de joueuses que vous avez particulièrement ciblées en équipe de France, les principaux dangers pour vous?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a tremendous amount of respect for France, and they're a team that's, I think, grown exponentially, and I think Corinne has done a fantastic job with them, and it'll be a really good match for us. I think both teams have to go into this game with the confidence of favoring themselves. I don't think you go into a match like this not feeling like you can get it done. So I would imagine both teams feel the same. We're playing on the road, they're playing at home. There's those factors. Yes, we have experience, but the past is the past. I mean, there's always a narrative attached to a big game like this. But, I think at the end of the day, it's both teams want it and have to go earn it. It's neither one's going to gift it to the other. So I think it's going to be a fantastic game.
Yeah, I think the same. I mean, I think the odds making are for you guys, and you guys can figure out who has the edge where. But I think for us, and I'm sure for them, you just try to put the best game plan you can together and go out and do it on the day. We always back ourselves and have such a strong belief in the group, not only the starting group, but then the players coming off the bench. And we feel like we're good enough to beat anyone on the day. So we just have to show up and do it on the day.
Right here, please.
Martin Rogers, Fox Sports in English for Jill. How you doing?
Hey, good.
In the history of the women's national team, there's been a great history of top-line goalkeepers and a very, very solid backline. What have you seen from Alyssa Nair over the past few days in terms of her mindset and kind of moving on from the tough mistakes she had the other night?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she's blinked. I think, two things unfold. One, it's her own character and who she is. I think, always got the support of her teammates. So I think that combination of her own personal fortitude and the support of the team, I think she's in a really good place. I think, like I said the other day, I've never seen a flawless game. So I think, sometimes things happen. But I think what's more importantly is how you move on quickly from that. And I thought she did in the game. And how you don't let it affect you moving forward. So, that's just part of it. So, but I mean, I think Alyssa has, as sometimes as quiet as she might come across, maybe in a press conference, she's got incredible confidence internally.
Right there.
Questions in English, Seth Vertellegal.com. For Jill, tomorrow night you're going to set the record for most games coached with the women's national team. What does it mean to you to reach this mark? And when you started with the team, I mean, did you envision yourself getting here?
That's why I scheduled 40 matches a year, probably maybe. Yeah, I mean, I'm not aware of that. I don't pay attention to that. It's one game at a time, literally, and that's kind of how I've coached my career. I couldn't tell you one stat. So I think, for me, it's just a tremendous honor to coach this group of players and to have this responsibility. And, I have a tremendous staff around me. And, it's a really good family vibe in terms of, our environment. And, you obviously want to keep winning. But in terms of numbers, I don't really pay attention to those.
My question is in English, Jill, and perhaps for Megan to talk about as well. I wanted to talk about the vital area of the pitch tomorrow, midfield. It always is. And 3 players at the first World Cup, Lindsay Horan, Sam Mewis and Rose Lavelle, have been particularly impressive. I just wonder if they've taken you by surprise, how they've stepped up to this level. And have you any doubts they can step up to another level tomorrow? Because that's certainly what it'll be against a French team that's very strong in that area. And perhaps, Megan, you could talk about those 3 players, about their potential for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are, we purposely schedule challenging matches so these players get that experience in really challenging situations. They've all been on a different journey. All very unique. They're all tremendous people, fantastic soccer players. I think I saw Rose when she was at a U20 event. I think I saw Lindsay also at a U20 event. So Sammy I recruited in college, so I've known these players for a long time. And I think when you see players at their early onset of their career, you get a sense of where they are mentally and obviously their skill set. So did I envision them to emerge at this point? I think they were on the right trajectory. But so much of that is determined by them. And I think that speaks volumes about who they are as people to get themselves to this point. As far as the game, I think they've, there's some, variety in the 3 of them in terms of what they bring and the profile of the players and their assets. But, I think their collective contribution, to our midfield has been outstanding. Megan can speak to how they feed her the ball, but,
No, they're tremendous players. I mean, I think they're new to the World Cup, but they're not young players. And I think we try to keep them to that as well. They might be sort of newish, but, they've been playing in the league. Lindsay played overseas. Sam has championships under her belt. Rose hasn't been on the best of teams, so she's getting there in the NWSL. But they're just fantastic players. They just haven't had the opportunity to be on the stage yet, and this is just their first time. I had no doubt of any of them that they were ready, and just how they've reacted throughout the tournament, how they've grown within the tournament, how they're learning kind of each game. All of them so eager to learn and be, the biggest players that they can be for the team. I think is really cool. You do kind of see, like, right before your very eyes, the next generation sort of sweeping it up, which is amazing. Really, they're filling, the shoes that we need them to, and more so. So personally, I feel like there's a lot more in the tournament for all 3 of them. I think there's a lot more room for them to grow, and as the games become bigger, it always demands more out of you. So I'm excited for them for these next, at least for this next match, to see, what more comes out of them and in the big performance they can put on the field.
2 final questions right here.
Thank you. In English, Liz Clark from the Washington Post for Megan. The qualities you have shown as an athlete of not backing down from a fight, wanting a ball, wearing the captain's armband, being seemingly so sure in your leadership role. And to another extent as a person, where can you share a bit about where you developed this? Was this you at 14 or 15, or has this been a process? Was there a primary influence in you finding your voice as a leader?
I feel like this was more me at like 5 than 14. I think it was like 5 was my peak, went down, and then I'm back up. I'm back here. That's been the life cycle of it. I don't know exactly. I mean, we come from from a strong family, that sort of instilled those values in us. I think just naturally as a person, I'm confident and, sort of sure of myself in that way. I have really amazing people around me in my family and in my teammates and in the team and the greater staff and everyone who supports me in that way. And I feel very empowered and emboldened by that. I think I'm also just very aware of, our platform as a team and how much impact that it has. I think that gives us a lot of confidence. I guess if we were saying these things and no one listened to us and everyone hated us, then maybe we wouldn't say it as loud. But just to see the impact that we've had and seeing the way that the sport has grown over, at least just the course of my career, and just in general, the way that we've been able to affect change in society, I think it sort of can't help but give you confidence. So maybe just emboldened in that way. And I think just me as a person, I guess I'm a little carefree and confident, and that's just kind of the way it is. And I like those big moments. Those are the most fun for me. I think if you play a sport, and if you want to be kind of in this profession, it's best to embrace those big moments. That's where all the goods are. So this is the best stage.
Kieran Pender from The Guardian, a question in English for Megan. I think it's fair to say that there's been an unprecedented level of interest in this tournament. TV records are being broken every night. There's apparently double the number of accredited journalists here than in 2015. In the bubble of the camp, to what extent do you realise and see that level of interest, and how exciting is that?
I think we realize it. I think we're, as much as I don't think we can ever keep everything out, nor do we try to keep every single thing out. I think, being the U.S. team, we always have a lot of eyes on us. So we're sort of keenly aware of, the amount of people here, fans here, interest in it. We're interested in all of those TV numbers and seeing how many people are watching and tuning in. And we felt like, this was going to be the biggest World Cup that we've had. I think every World Cup does that. Especially in the women's game, it seems to be growing so exponentially every year. And then obviously you culminate it with a fantastic host country, easy for people to get to, and the quality on the field has been there. So I think we're, aware of it and excited about it. I think it's really kind of stepping back, I guess, to see over the breadth of my career, this is my 3rd World Cup, to see how much bigger it is. It is really special to get to this 3rd one, and everything is continuing to get bigger and better. And more supported. It's just, encouraging for us that grind through it every day.
Jill and Megan, thank you very much. Good luck tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.